Listen to this vocal. The singer is technically audible, but the performance feels thin, distant, and disconnected from the track. Sharp consonants poke out, quiet words disappear. Reverb hangs in front of the voice instead of behind it. The instinct is to blame the microphone or reach for a complicated preset. Now imagine the exact same recording after a deliberate mixing pass. The words are clear, the level feels stable without becoming lifeless. The voice has weight, width, and depth, yet it still sounds like the singer rather than a stack of processors. That is the goal of vocal mixing. Processing cannot replace a great take, repair every room reflection, or create emotion that was never performed. But it can help a usable recording site naturally inside a finished production. In this video, you will learn 10 practical techniques for doing that. We will use familiar tools: de-essing, equalization, compression, parallel density, reverb, delay, automation, monochecks, and references. More importantly, we will turn fixed internet settings into listening decisions you can use on any voice and in any DAW. No magic chain, no mandatory plugin, just a repeatable way to hear the problem, choose the smallest tool, and keep the vocal emotionally present. Tip 1. Control sibilance without erasing the consonants that make words understandable. Sibilance is the sharp energy produced by sounds such as S and T. You will often find it somewhere in the upper mid-range or high frequencies, but there is no universal number. The hot band changes with the singer, the microphone, the angle, and every bright processor that follows. Start by sweeping the detector or using the de-ess's listen mode. You want to hear the distracting hiss and spit, not the entire word. If the detector is grabbing vowels, breath, and snare bleed, narrow the band or raise the threshold. Then reduce only enough for the consonant to stop jumping forward. Bypass the processor often. A successful de-esser leaves the lyric clear. An unsuccessful one makes the singer sound dull or lisped. The source script places de-essing first, and that can work. But signal order is a choice. Compression can lift quiet sibilance. A presence boost can make it sharper. Sometimes a gentle de-esser early controls the raw recording, and a second lighter stage after brightening catches what remains. Sometimes one stage later in the chain is enough. Do not de-ess because a checklist says every vocal must have it. De-ess because a consonant is distracting. Identify where it lives and stop when the performance sounds natural again. Tip 2. Use the 3-question EQ method. The first question is, does the recording contain low-frequency energy that does not belong? Room rumble, stand vibration, traffic, and proximity build-up can use headroom while adding no useful vocal tone. A high-pass filter around 80 to 100 Hz is a common audition point, but listen to the singer's lowest notes. Raise the cutoff until the noise clears, then back away before the voice loses weight. The second question is, does a low-mid build-up make the vocal feel veiled or boxy? 200 to 400 Hz is a useful search area, not a guaranteed cut. Sweep gently while the whole mix plays. If a broad 2 decibel reduction moves the singer forward, keep it. If the voice becomes small, restore the body. The third question is, does the vocal need more intelligibility or presence? 3 to 5 kHz often helps words read above dense guitars or synths, but it can also reveal harshness. Before boosting, try lowering the competing instrument or creating a small dynamic opening around the vocal. The point is not 3 moves on every track, it is 3 diagnostic questions: unwanted lows, obstructive low mids, and needed intelligibility. A good recording might need one answer. A difficult recording might need resonance control elsewhere. Make the curve serve what you hear, then level match the bypass so louder does not fool you. Tip 3. Split the dynamic jobs when one compressor is trying to do everything. A vocal performance contains fast peaks, sustained notes, breaths, and phrases that change intensity. One compressor can manage all of that, but asking it to make a huge amount of gain reduction may pull consonants forward, flatten expression, or create obvious pumping. Serial compression offers another option. The first stage acts as a peak catcher. Use a response fast enough to control the occasional jump and set the threshold so it reacts only when needed. The second stage can move more slowly and gently, leveling the body of the performance over a longer phrase. Ratios around 4 to 1 for peak control and 2 or 3 to 1 for leveling can be useful starting points. They are not the definition of professional. Watch gain reduction, then close your eyes and listen. Does the word remain clear? Does the phrase stay forward? Does the compressor release before the next important syllable? Match output level when you bypass each stage. If the processed version is louder, it will usually feel more exciting even when the envelope is worse. And remember the alternatives. Clip gain can reduce one oversized word before the chain. Volume automation can carry a phrase after the chain. A naturally controlled performance may need one compressor or almost none. 2 compressors are useful because they can divide labor, not because the number 2 carries a special sound. Tip 4. Add density with parallel compression. Create a send or duplicate path from the lead vocal. On that parallel path, use heavier compression than you would tolerate on the main track. The sound by itself may be thick, breathy, and obviously controlled. That is fine. It is not meant to replace the direct vocal. Bring the parallel channel all the way down. Play the full mix, then raise it slowly. Listen to the quiet ends of words and the body between consonants. At the right point, the vocal feels more substantial and stable, while the direct path still supplies articulation and natural movement. If the blended vocal becomes fuzzy, narrow, or tiring, check 3 things. First, the parallel path may simply be too loud. Second, its low mids may be accumulating under the lead, so a filter or small EQ cut can keep the density focused. Third, plug-in latency or polarity could be changing the tone when the paths combine. Modern DAW compensation usually handles this, but it is worth checking if the result becomes hollow. Ignore fixed instructions such as setting the parallel channel exactly 15 or 20 dB below the lead. Fader numbers depend on routing, gain staging, and processor output. Use the mute test instead. When the parallel bus disappears, the vocal should feel slightly less supported. When it returns, it should feel better without announcing a second vocal underneath. Tip 5. Build depth with focused reverb. Ascend is a flexible way to do this because the direct vocal remains independent, while one or more effect returns, creates space. It also lets several vocal layers share the same acoustic character. But the important idea is control, not a rule that inserts are forbidden. An insert can still be useful for a special, fully wet sound. Begin with one short space. A room or plate can make a close, dry vocal feel, connected to the track without pushing it far away. Then, if the arrangement needs more scale, add a longer haul or atmospheric return. The source suggests 1 to 2 seconds for the short space and 2 to 4 seconds for the long one. Treat those as search ranges. Tempo and density decide whether the tail has room to finish. Pre-delay is one of the best ways to keep the lyric forward. A short pause before the reflections lets the direct consonant arrive first. EQ on the return can remove low-frequency cloud and soften a bright tail that competes with sibilance. High-pass and low-pass values should follow the material. 500 Hz and 8 kHz are starting points, not borders. Now, listen in context. If you hear an impressive reverb but lose the words, the effect is winning. The best depth often becomes obvious only when you mute it and the vocal suddenly feels too dry. Tip 6. Use delay for width and rhythmic support. A short slap delay, often somewhere around 80 to 150 milliseconds, creates a fast repeat that the ear can fuse with the direct voice. It can add thickness without producing the long wash of reverb. Keep feedback low for a single or limited repeat and filter the return so it supports the vocal instead of copying every bright consonant and low mid resonance. For a more rhythmic effect, synchronize the delay to the song. A dotted eighth note is popular because it places echoes between the main pulses, but the correct division is the one that converses with the phrasing. Try quarter, eighth, dotted or triplet values and listen through the chorus, not only one isolated line. Width can come from placing the return away from the direct vocal, using different left and right timings, or spreading multiple vocal effects while the lead remains stable near the center. Check mono. If the width vanishes in an ugly way, adjust timing, polarity, or level. As with reverb, do not worship a fader value. Raise the delay until you clearly hear it, then pull it back to the roll you want. For invisible support, the listener should miss the effect when it is muted, but not identify a constant echo when it is present. For a deliberate throw, let the repeat step forward only on the chosen word. Tip 7. Ride phrases before asking a compressor to solve every level change. Compression responds to level, but it cannot understand the lyric. It does not know that one quiet word carries the meaning of the line, or that a shouted note should feel larger than the verse. Automation lets you make that musical decision directly. Start before the processing chain with clip gain if a few sections are dramatically inconsistent. Lower an oversized phrase so it does not slam every plugin. Raise a weak phrase enough that the compressor can react in the same useful range. This creates a steadier input without forcing one global threshold to cover the entire performance. Then use channel automation for the final relationship with the mix. Work in complete lines. Follow the lyric and mark only the moments where attention drops or one word leaps out. Make small rides, play the passage again, and listen for continuity rather than staring at the automation curve. You do not need to flatten every syllable. Breath, emphasis, and distance are part of expression. The goal is for the listener to follow the performance without working around accidental level changes. This is why vocal automation can take longer than inserting every plug-in in the chain. It is also why it often makes the largest difference. A well-written vocal lets compression sound gentler, lets effects stay cleaner, and keeps the emotional center stable as the arrangement grows around it. Tip 8. Check the vocal in mono. When the left and right channels collapse to one, panning no longer separates the vocal from guitars, keys, and effects. Frequency masking becomes easier to hear. Stereo wideners, doubled delays, and phase-dependent reverb may lose level or change tone. Play the busiest section in mono at a modest listening level. Can you still understand the lead? Does the center become crowded? Does a wide delay disappear? Or does a reverb suddenly cover the words? Those changes tell you where the stereo version may be relying on fragile separation. If the vocal drops, do not immediately turn it up. Bypass the widening and time-based effects. Check polarity and timing on doubles. Listen for an instrument occupying the same important range. The repair might be a small fader move, a narrower return, a different delay time, or dynamic space in a competing part. Mono is a diagnostic, not a demand that the mix sound identical. A stereo chorus is allowed to become narrower when summed. The test is whether the song's essential hierarchy survives: lead vocal, melody, groove, and emotional focus. Return to stereo after every adjustment. You are building a vocal that works in the intended wide mix and remains convincing when a phone, club system, stream, or listener collapses that width. Tip 9. Automate the effects too. A single reverb and delay balance rarely serves every moment of a song. The sparse verse may need intimacy. The chorus may need a wider sense of scale. The final word before a transition may deserve a tail that fills the empty space. Automate the send rather than flooding the entire vocal. Raise a delay only on the last word of a line. Let a longer reverb bloom after the phrase ends. Pull the effects down when the arrangement becomes dense, then open them when instruments drop away. You can also automate feedback, filtering, or return level, but begin with the send because it is easy to hear and easy to reverse. Plan the motion around the lyric. If an echo repeats an important word, confirm that its rhythm does not collide with the next line. If a reverb tail enters a new section, decide whether it should connect the sections or make the transition feel blurry. The direct vocal should remain the anchor. Effects automation is not decoration added at random, it is arrangement for space. Just as a drummer changes intensity between verse and chorus, the vocal environment can change with the song. Once the moves are written, listen from a section before the automation and continue through the next section. A beautiful delay throw can still be wrong if it steals attention from the downbeat that follows. Tip 10. Use professional references and match the loudness before you compare. Choose a finished song with a comparable singer, genre, arrangement density, and emotional goal. Route it so your mix bus processing does not accidentally change it. Then turn the reference down until its perceived loudness is close to your working mix. A mastered song that remains much louder will usually sound clearer and more exciting, even when that judgment is unfair. Compare one vocal quality at a time. How far forward is the lead? How bright are the consonants? How much low mid-weight remains? Does the vocal feel dense or dynamic? How wide are the doubles and effects? How long is the audible space after a line? Do not copy the reference's plug-in chain or force your singer into another singer's tone. The recording, performance, key, and arrangement are different. Use the reference as a compass for proportion. Short A-B comparisons are more useful than letting the reference play for a minute. Switch, answer one question, make one change, and switch again. If you find yourself chasing the mastered loudness, lower the reference one more time. References also reset familiarity. After hearing your own vocal for hours, your brain begins to accept its problems. A well-chosen commercial vocal reminds you what stable level, clear diction, controlled brightness, and intentional depth can feel like. Here is the repeatable vocal pass. Begin with the performance and recording. No processor can fully replace a convincing take or remove every room problem without a cost. Control distracting sibilance, but keep the consonants natural. Ask 3 EQ questions. Are there unwanted lows, obstructive low mids, or missing intelligibility? Use the source's frequency ranges as places to listen, not commands. Manage dynamics with the smallest useful combination of clip gain, compression, and automation. If one compressor sounds stressed, divide peak control and leveling across stages. Add parallel compression only until the body feels supported. Create depth with focused reverb, width and rhythm with delay, and filter the returns when they compete with the direct voice. Ride phrases so the lyric stays intentional. Check mono for masking and fragile stereo tricks. Automate effects around the arrangement, not across the whole song at one fixed level. Finally, level match a professional reference and compare one quality at a time. Notice the pattern. Every tool begins with a listening question. No high-pass frequency, compressor ratio, reverb decay, or send level is professional by itself. The professional result is a vocal that remains expressive, while every important word belongs in the track. Technique gives you repeatable starting points. Your ears decide how far to go. Keep the singer at the center of the process, and the chain becomes simpler, clearer, and much easier to trust.